Welcome to Sun Lakes Karaoke. We're going to be doing a couple of songs. Jason and I will start it off with Paint It Black and, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was just joking to start, breaking the ice. Okay, so this is the 2026 budget workshop with management staff, the board of directors, and the finance advisory committee members. We'll start off by doing, as we normally do, is Pledge of Allegiance. And if you can join after me, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jose, we'll need one table. Jess, you're right up. Thank you. Jess Ocampo, ladies and gentlemen, watching on TV, he is coming in. He will do a little dance for us to start off. So what we're going to do in this workshop, we have 2 hours. The goal was to have about 10-minute presentation on each of the segments within the budget, 10-minute Q&A, go through it all, and if there's Q&A at the end, the board can direct that. With that, we will start up as soon as Jess is seated. No, it's standing room only, Jess, I'm sorry.
Craig, John got it. Craig.
Okay. Let us go ahead and start. So I will have the presentation. You should be able to see that on TV for those that are not here. Jason, let's go ahead and start this off. So as a reminder to the community, the budget process began back in June, going over different initiatives and directives that the board desired for the new year, also taking into account what has come about regarding insurance, cost of supplies, et cetera, going up, and trying to balance the needs of the corporation's need of the community with what can be done for the assessment. So there's a balancing act that is done. That's the process we began in June. And the board has reviewed and also with the operating and the repair and replacement planned expenditures. If you were watching last night's open session meeting, we did talk about the Smart Properties Reserve Study, and that draft is here. We'll talk about that section later on in the presentation. So let's kick it off with food and beverage. And so food and beverage, what happens, and what I'll do is go over a little year-over-year change in the budget. Director will speak, and then I'll have Q&A, again, as a reminder. So what changed? The board hired CCL to begin management of the food and beverage services in April 2025. The 2025 subsidy included costs for maintenance and services. These costs did not get transferred to CCL in some cases. As a reminder to the community, even though we have a management agreement with CCL, there are still responsibilities for maintaining the building, the pipes, the electrical, and the equipment is still the HOA's equipment. So we must make sure that that is maintained, that it's on the reserve, observe that it's still there, it hasn't walked off, et cetera. And so there are some costs that will still be incurred by the association in the food and beverage amenity along with the management fee. So the management fee of $778,383 is based on the input that CCL provided. They provided the board with a budget of where they think they will be in 2026. We've utilized their numbers to create our budget. Other costs that will remain, that's still the responsibility of the association, is kitchen equipment, operating supplies, the repairs for that. So we have the major equipment, and then there's small equipment that we may need to replace. That's within here. The license, permits, and then drain service. The most important, drain service, so we don't have any the pipes backing up into the kitchen. So year over year, the percent change is about 21.41%, 149,000, and the budget for 2026 will be 845,789 for this department. And since there is no director, I'll open up for Q&As.
So I would like to comment on this. The correct number is 778172.
Okay.
778172.
172. It was on the micro font.
Yeah, and along with that, it's capped at 778172. There will be no, they will assume all losses
That's right.
over that amount
Very true.
for
Thank you that.
2026.
Thank you for that.
So Chris, a question I had in looking at the detail line items of their budget, they have included the 14,000 for licenses and permit. They've included a cap of $12,000 for small kitchen equipment. And they also have dollars in for outside services, which I'm assuming the drain service is an outside service. So I think the only thing we need to carry in addition to their number is the 24,000 for equipment repairs, because indeed the equipment is ours. But I think all the other things we're carrying in there, I think we can get rid of. I think they're in their numbers.
Well, let me talk to Javier about that, because I wasn't sure that that was their pieces that they're responsible for, because I don't think when I was talking to him in the past, I don't believe that they were including, if I have to paint, change light bulbs, they weren't going to include that. So I will follow up and then revise as necessary.
Well, where would paint and light bulbs be in our numbers?
So that is going to go under this, any operating supplies, they would go into that. They'll also includes the water softener, which is our responsibility. Any of the small equipment, now they may be putting equipment when they replace a blender at the bar or other items.
But they have money in here for small equipment.
Oh, right, and what I'm thinking is that they may be doing that while I'm talking about other equipment like the coffee machine or another piece of equipment that's
Okay.
not one of the ovens. So I just need to clarify with
So we need to
CCL.
clarify. Okay, because they have $30,000 of operating supplies in their budget. And so let's make sure, and then another 9,400, and then the 14, is there $28,000 worth of licenses and permits? So they have 14 and we have 14?
I'll have to follow up because I also have the health permit, the building, some other items that are on there. So I need to follow up with them to see what they're covering, what they're not.
Okay, all right, that would be good. That's what we need to do then. I was just gonna say, in the past, historically, okay, now we have to put the reading glasses on, sorry for the delay.
Not on ours.
Like the licenses, because in the last 12 months, we have spent $4,500 on licenses and permits. The budget was $6,400, and in the lounge, we had spent another $7,000, so that the total between the restaurant and the lounge would have been less than 14 this last year. So hopefully, those are double counted. So hopefully, we could eliminate everything except the equipment.
I think the outside services that they're doing, Jason just reminded me that they're taking on bands, and so what's in outside services may be the bands that they're doing and not
Well,
first
they have
service. So-
entertainment.
So
Okay.
what I've got on my new sheet from last night,
Okay.
3288 in uniforms, dishes, flatware, glassware replacement, 14,901. These are capped. This is their cap. Linen and rentals, $40,800. Small equipment, $12,000. $2,000 for entertainment. That's what I have. I have I have 5 specific in the new
Okay.
agreement. So I'll get that to you.
Please, if you could.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you, Chris.
Okay, so we're going to then, are there any other questions?
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, I have a question. The contract with CCL began in April of this year, so our one-year rollover or turnover will be coming up in April, and if they continue to have significant losses, we may be looking at alternative vendor.
Fair enough.
Do we,
He just made a comment, not direction or anything.
Okay, because they have capped their losses at 778, so there'll
They
be
did.
nothing extra beyond their contract levels. I think if they have losses that exceed that they're eating, they may want to do something different, but
Correct. I think that was important, that was talked about yesterday by the board, that capping helped with the budget purposes, helps understand
Yeah.
where and that was, for the next year, that cap is expected all the way through December.
yeah. I just want to clarify too, as you're saying, Bob, they started here in April, but what they have set now, I believe, for a budget, right, Joe, is they're on our calendar year. So we had set an annual budget, and that cap was the 696, but it's actually for that's for the whole year, but their year doesn't start in April. Their year is starting in January with us. They're on, that budget you've got kicks in January. And that cap, it's 1/12 of that 778, beginning in January. Okay, you're nodding. Gary's nodding.
Okay. There you go.
I mean, I agree, and we need to clarify costs of that. And we have an ongoing dialogue with CCL. The performance has not been acceptable, let's put it that way. As a treasurer, I'm not happy with their performance. You know, their response is what you just heard. They're willing to fix their fee for 2026. We still have to make it through the rest of the year, and our general understanding is they will fix it for the rest of the year. But I don't know if that's really clear yet. You know, so a lot of things are still being worked out. They've only started in April. That's not really, I'm not saying that as an excuse, but they have to, it has to be a win-win for both of us for it to be a long-term success. You know, so if they don't make any money, I can't imagine they want to keep moving forward. So we're having serious discussions to try and make sure that they operate within budget. And beyond that, that's not all of it. It's also the service, the quality of food, and believe me, we're watching that very closely. So.
Thank you, Gary. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay. If there are no further questions, I'm going to move on to golf course. Go ahead. Oh, Jay, thank you. Okay, and so what this is golf course operations, maintenance as a whole. First, we'll start off with the pro shop. So what has changed in the pro shop year over year is revenue, the projected increase in annual memberships by 12,000, and a price increase, based on a price increase of green fees as well. David's going to be talking about that. So green fees for owners, green fees for guests are expected to increase based on the price per round that is expected to go up. The year-over-year increase is related to those three items in revenue. Excuse me. In expenses, pro shop labor declined. This resulted in defunding one position in the pro shop to offset the increase in the golf course maintenance labor costs, and we'll go over that in a little bit. And then the building and equipment repair costs declined by $9,192 year over year in the budget, which related to removing janitorial. Janitorial has now been consolidated in the operations department. So that item was removed. And so with that, we're looking at, for golf, to have a 3.96% increase, a decline of 3.96, 60,000, should have put that in red, it would have been better, $60,057. The 2026 annual subsidy for golf would be $1,577,050. Now with that, David's going to go over just a couple of the items regarding annuals, the pricing for green fees. So he'll go over the golf rates and discuss that. David, are you ready? And we also have a slide when you're ready to tell Jason.
Hello? There we go. Well, welcome. I'm David Goldstein. I'm your golf director. I'm going to go over the golf rates projections for next year and the budget and kind of go over a little bit of the reason why I suggest this, and we're going to go this way. So for the 2026 golf rates, we are going to try to keep them the annuals. I want to keep them the same. We went up $300 last year. Sorry for the teeing. We went up $300 last year, and we did lose quite a few annuals from last year. They went from the championship course to the executive course, which was $1,700, a much more affordable rate. Unfortunately, that's a big increase or big decrease of our championship golf course. And so I'm trying to make a benefit. I'm trying to make it where it's an attractive sale. I'm going to keep it at $3,000. I'm also going to keep the executive at $1,700. The same rate. And what else I'm going to do, I'm also going to give them, when you buy an annual, a 200 range token card. And that card is only going to be good for that year. And so it's basically an $800 value. I'm giving an extra value for people that want to become annuals. We did a survey, sorry to keep going on, but we did a survey and figured out why the 50 annuals did not become annuals from 2024 to 2025. And a lot of them moved out. The price per, as the daily fee was $44 and the annual rate was $3,000. They figured out, well, I'm only playing this many amount of rounds. I'm going to pay $2,500. I'm not going to pay $3,000. That's why I'm going to go the daily fee rate. I'm going to try to push what my goal is to make such a great value that it will be a non-question. You know, I don't want to. The value is so good that it's going to be an annual, and everybody should be an annual. Period. That being said, I did increase the daily fee rates. It's about 25% across the board. The daily fee for the championship golf course is $44. I submitted to $55, an increase. So it's an $11 increase, which sounds like a big increase, 25%. The value that I'm going to be giving for those daily fee is I'm going to give them a warm-up bucket. You know, I'm not going to give them a token, so they can't take a token, but if they wanted a warm-up bucket before their round, that's a $4 value. So I'm increasing the guest rates, and I'm increasing the resident rates as well. And I'm going to give them the value of a range token. The range, I know on our budget, the range we decreased the range a little bit, but my goal is to increase with the annuals and all of those others that it's such a big increase that the $5,000 or $10,000 of the decrease in the range budget, it's not going to be in effect. So, and also this is a 3 to 5 year plan, which Chris and Jason and I will be working on, as well as Mark Birchfield, because he's part of the golf. If we can get the golf course, if the product is up to date and perfect, right, then we're going to get more attraction to our golf, to people playing golf. So we also have other ideas to get more annuals in. Mr. Ganino brought it to me this morning, and they're very good ideas. So we will be bringing them up to Chris and Jason, and my goal is to bring more annuals and to bring it back to the 400 annuals in the next 5 years. So if we can get 400 championship annuals in the next 5 years, now golf is actually paying for, or getting closer to paying for itself, and that's where we need to be. The other thing is, since 2017 to 2025, the increase in the resident rate was only $11, or it was $35. Sorry, $9. It was $9 from 2017 to 2025. The increase in the daily fee was only $9. It's $1 per year. That's unheard of, especially with the times that we've been doing. We went through COVID, which was a 20% increase across the board, right? And we actually went down in that year to try to get more of our members. So we just need to get back up to the times. We were in the ad hoc meeting committee Mr. Walter started at the beginning of the year to try to gain more revenue for the golf course. We had a lot of different ideas, and this is where I believe we need to go. And with my expertise, this is what this is the next 3 to 5 years, and we're gonna get there. So.
Okay, we're going to get through this technology issue here. So if I take you to page 13 of the packet, you'll see that we have where David was talking about the golf annuals, the decline he mentioned from 2011. There's a little chart there, then kind of gives you the actuals through the years of 2022 onward. The next page, on page 14, is the years from 2019 to 2025, what the rates have been, and then the projected 2026. And you'll see where we're maintaining the annuals at the same level while increasing the green fees. And then down, we break down how that would break down to the revenue. So on this plan, as we look at, again, moving hopefully members to the annuals, to help with that. Also with merchandising, we are going to be, I don't think you hit on this, but we're also covering it in this section. Merchandising has kind of seen a decline in 2025, that being prices that are coming, the true cost of the item. A lot of these items are imported, so the costs have increased, and then we're passing that along to the members. We haven't seen a lot of sales, so one of the things that we'll be looking to expand is just in general what can be related to pickleball. I think the board had a great idea of can we have Sun Lake's branded items related to dogs, because the dog park is right near the North Clubhouse. Is there something we can sell there? And so for the Pro Shop products, we're going to look at expanding the line of products available, just not to golf.
Not just golf, it'll be more, lifestyle, so that I don't, because who do I get that come into the golf shop? Golfers, right? And I have 400 golfers. I would like to get the 3,000 or 5,000, right? Right? You're laughing, but hey, that's my goal, right? That's a 3 to 5 year goal, right? And so if I can get 3 to 5% every year, we're on the trend, right? I don't want to see this, I want to see this. And so that's our goal. And so thank you for bringing that up, Chris. That is exactly what we're trying to do.
Okay, any questions?
I have a comment. So what will the rates be for 18 holes for a resident to come in and purchase 18 holes of golf on a Saturday?
Yes, so I apologize. We did talk about this as well. We did weekend rates. We did talk about the weekend rates as well. This year, I did say that I wanted to hold back on the weekend rates, and the only reason was because I didn't want to get
Not too much at once. I get it.
too much at once, and
So
that's why it's
what
a
will the
3 to
rate be?
5 year plan.
What's
And
the rate be? What will the rate be?
for, the weekend rate? The weekend rate
Or
right
Wednesday, I
now
don't
it's
care.
it's
What's the 18 holes gonna cost?
$55.
So what does it cost to play at Oak Valley on a Wednesday or on a Saturday?
It's the same price, $55.
That's what Oak Valley
Yeah,
charges?
60, right around $60.
Okay.
So
How about
55 to $65.
How about Tequette?
Same price. And Tuckwit will be going up.
So they're the same price. They're 6.5 hours long, not on a private country club. You're on a public golf course. So our private golf course that you can play in 3.5 hours is the same price as a public course that will take 6 hours.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I've heard discussions about tournaments, and I have no clue how tournaments would do in our situation. But can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, do tournaments make money, and is it something we're looking into to try and bring in here, and what are the sort of consequences of that?
Yes, so we did talk about that in the ad hoc quite extensively. There's a lot that goes in with outside, you're talking about outside events, outside tournaments. So outside events, we won't be, we have to watch out with the ADA compliance with that, and bringing in anything outside, we have to be ADA compliant, and it takes away from the private exclusivity of our golf club as well. Is it a revenue generator? Yes. But you do need to put in the money up front, for golf carts, golf cart storage, personnel. There's a lot of upfront costs, and when you weigh it out, unless we're having tournaments all the time, to at least minimum twice a week of outside tournaments, the cost, it's probably not there, to be honest. And so if we were going to have private events, the one-offs. Now, the one thing with the outside events that I do like is the advertisement, because we don't get advertisement here. And an outside event or a private event, and we did talk about one of the outside events being U.S. Open, senior, the senior amateur championship, because we are a senior community. We get a women's senior and a men's senior championship to come out here, right? That's huge advertisement. We get video advertisement. We get all of those players. They're going to go back to their own clubs, and they're going to say how nice of a course this is. The word of mouth that we're going to get from the advertisement is huge. So outside events, the advertisement part of it is huge. The revenue that we're going to get for that event, individual event, it's probably not going to be there, right? It's more of a goal, a plan, if we're going to be doing that. So,
Let me ask another question. If we were to go to outside tournaments twice a week, was it fair to say it would cost us close to $1 million for 72 golf carts and $2 million for a building to house them? And then I don't know if we call God on where we're going to park the people because there's nowhere to put them. Is that fair to say those?
I don't know the exact numbers, but it is a big number. They are big numbers. I know Mission Lakes they're still trying to do a building, and it's right around $2 million for the building, just for the maintenance building.
So with a $3 million investment, how long would it take to break even?
A while. A while, and then you're looking at 5 years. You're looking at 5 years, but then you need to update your carts again after 7, right?
I understand.
And so it's a revolving door. But the advertisement part is we're going to be getting those people to talk to their own clubs, and in 3 to 5 years, now we have
100%. We get a USGA qualifying round. We get an SCGA championship here. There's 8 of them in California. And to drive real good golfers that live and breathe golf every day, yeah, we'll sell some houses because of it. I'm on board with that part of it. But the other part of it, bringing the outside in with $3 million investment, it could take 20 years to break even. Okay, thank you.
I have one question.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bill. Oh.
I apologize.
Well, I would like to see more on this ad hoc committee. Many of the non-golfers, would like to see the revenue improved right now, not 5 years from now, not 3 years from now. We need to start, improve it, improve the restaurant, improve the golf, because we're losing a lot of money, theoretically, okay? You see what I mean? And I'm a golfer. I love this place. But anyway, I'm just saying what the outside is saying. We need to start some more additional revenue somehow. We have to rent carts each time you have a tournament. So be it, But anyway, they would like to see action now. Okay?
I totally understand. ADA compliant, if anybody understands what that is, that's handicap compliant. Our bathrooms need to be handicap compliant. Mission Lakes is a semi-private golf course. They just spent $500,000 on their restroom, and just to become compliant with public. And they have to have an ADA compliant golf cart, which costs $34,000. So if we open up, we have to be compliant. And not only that, now we're opening up to people, non-owners here, slipping and falling, hurting themselves, or wanting to sue us. And as a manager, as a director, I do not want that to happen, not on my watch. I care about this club and I care about my job here, and I wanted, and yes, I do understand where you're coming from, and yes, but I have 3,200 homes here. That is my attraction. I only have 180 annual golf members, so I need to find out why nobody's interested in golf. You know, I think we've done a survey. We've done a survey, and I will be talking to Chris and Jason and the board and the team, and I'm going to try to tap into why and get them out. One of the suggestions that Mr. Ganino came up was, hey, you become an annual, I'll give you 5 free golf lessons. Well, that, it didn't make sense at the time, you know, and I just have to think about it, and now it makes sense because, hey, if you've never golfed before, you become an annual, I'm gonna teach you how to golf. That's an incentive, right? So it's a great idea. He brought that to me this morning, right? And so there's great ideas out there, and what I need to tap into the people that are here, the 90% of people that are non-golfers that they don't care about golf. And why did they not care? Because they've never even stepped on it. Maybe I have to get them on it. Like Mrs. Gutnick, she's been here for a while, and we finally showed her the golf course. First time.
I can say David is a great teacher and he really makes it fun. If I wasn't a full-time caregiver, I would be a golfer.
So I need to tap into that, right? I've only been here a year, but these are great ideas, and I'm working with my team, and these are the ideas that I need to tap into without going to outside. If we do end up going outside, the cost, I apologize. I don't want anybody to sue us for something that we could have avoided.
Can I ask a question? Let's look at the $3,000. And I'm looking at this historical data here. In 2019, okay, we had 235 annual members. Can you hear me? Okay, we had 235 golfers, annual members. And then when we raised it to 2,475, it declined by 29 annual members. Now, something happened. For some reason, the master board decided to reduce the annual dues from 2,475 to 2,400.
What year?
2021.
Called COVID.
Yeah, but the best thing that the master board then, under Bob, he decided to make it more affordable and made it monthly rather than making an annual payment. Now, I found it very beneficial on my part because I'd rather keep my money in my investment. I said that to you, so I signed in. So for the next 2 years, I was an annual member until I had to have my knees replaced, okay? And we started increasing it again by $100, okay? But we kept the daily rate to $35. So the annual members still increased by 9, and then going on to 23, we increased it by another $100. But for some reason, okay, we started increasing in 23 the daily rate to $38, 24 to $40. And then suddenly in 2025, your predecessor decided, hey, why don't we increase it by $300? And then in addition to that, he increased the daily rate to $4. And you and I were discussing this last October when I gave you. But coming from Palm Springs, this is Sand Lakes, okay? There are quite a few of us who can afford the Sand Lakes. But I would say here, they're mostly 80% are retired, okay? So suddenly, no one believed, and I kept on saying, you're going to lose a lot of annual golfers. And my prediction came out right, 183. Now, how do we correct it? And now you're coming up in 2026, you'll have 24,120 rounds of golf in the championship, and in the executive, 13,355. By the way, David, you've done a great job here, because this is the first time that I've seen a budget show a round of golf. Remember, we were discussing, what does it take for an effectively and efficiently managed golf course to have a number of rounds? And you mentioned to me somewhere around 240, okay? When we keep both facilities busy in the morning and in the afternoon. And I think during that conversation, I said to you, I'm going to come up with an idea how we can keep the afternoon busy, because the golf course, as well as this building, the land that the residents own, because it doesn't show in the balance sheet as a property of the HOA. Am I correct, Gary?
That's correct.
Okay. So basically, in business, you have a fixed cost. Now, Joe, you have employees, you know, right? You have to come up with a solution that you can pay your employees, so you come up with more sales, right? You and I have to hustle for contracts, which I did in the last many years. Okay. Now, moving on, I'm not too sure keeping the $3,000 annual for the annual players would bring back those 183. I mean, would bring back those 75. Let's assume that out of those 75, 5 pass away.
We didn't lose
The other
75
10
people last year. That's an incorrect number. We did not lose 75 members.
Well, I'm just going
I
by
know.
the figures that's shown here.
Yeah,
But regardless, we lost quite a few, right?
28, 29? 28 or 29?
Okay, so now my concern here is that the residents, we pass on the costs, the operating losses from the restaurant and the golf, we pass it on to the residents, right?
Yes.
In our business, we have no place to pass it on. We must produce more revenue so we can offset the fixed costs. And the more sales that we make, we lower our average fixed costs. As a result, we make money. Okay? My field here is my concern. I'm not just a member of this finance committee, but I'm also a district delegate. Now, we are responsible to my residents, especially in District 6. Okay? We voted the master board. We're just like parliamentarians, you know, in a parliament. Okay? Now, I can follow what my constituents or my residents say, but I do follow them. And as a result, I have the 3 people in the board. And I like it, okay? Because things are changing. I believe that the board right now is making a difference to the residents of Sand Lake. Okay? Now, that's why here, when I was looking that you can increase the activity by 20%, I doubt it, because the history shows. Okay. Now, as you know, remember, David, we discussed that a normal golf round of an efficiently and effectively management golf course is about 100 to 180 rounds of golf.
240 a day? You said 280?
Yeah, no, 100 to 108. I'm just rounding it. I'm not a golf professional. That's why we hired you here. So you can increase the number of
We only have
golfers.
2 hours, Jesse, so I know
No,
you
no.
have some points you want to
Okay.
make. Let's make them.
So basically, okay, I'll move on quickly. Gary, we have 149,000 loss that we have to absorb. And the survey shows why we don't go to the restaurant, because it's pricey and it doesn't afford a variety. Like we have Koreans here, Asians. Why can't we have a daily special focusing on those daily cuisines, you know? So we will have more diners. So I think at this point, what I'm addressing, Joe, to you, is I agree with you that we have to think outside of the box here. We have to find solutions. And you have FSR and CCL to work on. They're supposed to be professionals, okay?
They are.
Okay, so I trust that the master board will be very proactive. And thank you.
Thank you, Jesse.
Just one last question, if I might. It's a short one, honest. Do the annual golfers have any reciprocal rights at any other courses? I mean, like, because FSR is our management company, does FSR have any other golf courses in the valley, Coachella Valley?
So yes, there's La Quinta, and then there's the one that Michael used to manage. I think there was a couple that are in the desert. There's one, but La Quinta has a golf course, and it's a private golf course. But that doesn't mean we can reciprocate. That doesn't.
Yeah,
so-
we don't have reciprocal.
Right, so your
Right.
question is if a member buys a membership here, can they go to La Quinta and play there? No. And vice versa, that we don't have any agreements like that.
But, I do, you did hire a golf professional that is well-known around. I hate, people know me, and so I've gotten some of our members at different golf courses, different private clubs, Bermuda Dunes, you know, so you can, if anybody from Sun Lakes, as a member, you're a golfer, you're not a golfer, if you want to go to another golf club, I would vouch for you. I would tell them, yes, this is a golfer, you can put them at an early tee time, no problem, or this is not a golfer, they're coming out. For example, I had a member, I won't say their name, but they wanted to go to Hawaii. So I called up Kanana, whatever, I can't say that big old long name, but I got her out as a word of mouth from a director of golf. She would not, her and her husband would not have been able to play if it wasn't for the phone call from me. Not saying that that's big or anything. And I've also worked with the Lakes Country Club. I used to work at the Lakes Country Club, so their director of golf right now, which is John McCarthy, he wanted to do a reciprocal for us in the summertime, which is, it's a small amount, but you got private club members wanting to come over here. You know, it's not opening it up to public, it's still private because, you know, I'm bringing them, and it's the same thing with you guys wanting to go over to the Lakes Country Club. You know, you pay a small fee, right? And you would be able to play over there. It's a private country club, same thing. So I have been talking with Chris and Jason about it. We did actually talk about it months ago, but since the budget's been going on there, we just need to bring it back up again, and then we just need to get it to the board and get it approved, and as long as it's okay, because the one thing, at least with my golfers, is I am not trying to push anybody that's not a homeowner. I'm not trying to take their tee time at all. So if one of my employees is out there and you think that they're taking your tee time, they are not supposed to be. It's a benefit for us to go play golf as well. So, yeah, that's what's going on.
I would just like to address Bill's comment about the ad hoc golf committee for coming up with revenue-enhancing ideas. That committee has now completed its task. It has submitted the recommendations to the board, and the board will be implementing, hopefully, some of those suggestions in the very, very near future. Yep.
David, one thing that I often watched on Channel 97 in the past was Brian Garlington had some just sort of quick lessons that you could watch. And I thought, you know, for me, it was interesting to be able to see that on Channel 97. Maybe some of that, I like the idea of free lessons if I ever had time, when I got off this board, I would actually be interested in doing that. But I think that's the hook, you know, to get some, and maybe at the welcome home events, a little more, you know, I don't know if the golf presents anything on welcome home, but something, you know, maybe a short video or something like that, and talking about golf lessons for new residents. And Jess, I wanted to just respond with regard to pricing in food and beverage. We're constantly looking at that, and one major thing we just approved, well, CCL made the decision, it didn't really need our approval, but we're eliminating the 18% service charge. And that was really, it wasn't even 18%, because once you pay the sales tax on it, it was more like 19 or 19.5%, and then there was other costs associated with that. So that should help on the pricing, but, you know, and I understand what you said about the menu, and we should be looking at those
Yeah,
options.
but Gary, we did that when we took up the service charge, you know, and some people weren't paying, you know, tip. That's why we took it back.
You can't have it both
I don't know what to
ways.
say about that, Jess.
Yeah, you can't have it both ways. First off, the pricing is excellent. We don't drive the menu. We have a business partner, but the pricing is excellent. I challenge our prices against any restaurant in our area. Go out and buy a McDonald's, you know, to go. It's $14, $15. You can buy a half a sandwich and soup in here for $5. Tonight I'm going to partake in the lobster. We have excellent pricing, and they're trying to improve each and every day, but we can't have it both ways. We can't say 1 minute, we'll take the 18% off, and that'll help the resident not pay as much, and then turn around and say, yeah, but nobody's going to tip them. It can't be both ways. It's one or the other. So, you know, we just got to be realistic. And with regards to pricing on things, since COVID, eggs have gone up 400%. 400%. And we're looking for a 5 to 10% increase in the fees. You said they were going up $1 a year, $1 a year. That's ridiculous. There's no way we can sustain if we don't pay our bills. Thank you.
Excuse me, just one comment. A member from the Men's Golf Club made a suggestion, and maybe you need to hear it, you know. His suggestion is, in as much as we are subsidizing the golf course and the restaurant as amenities, and we don't have to subsidize the tennis court.
Can you move
know,
closer to
other
the mic,
faci-
please?
the
Jess,
other
thank you.
The other
go.
facilities. Yeah, no, we pay for them,
Closer.
okay? But then the players don't pay for it because it's an amenity. But the golfers have to pay for it. Now, I understand that Houston, no.
You know, Jesse,
Highland
the
Springs.
cost of the golf course
I
compared to the
understand.
cost of the tennis courts
Yes.
it's minuscule. So
No,
I've
I
heard this
understand
argument
that.
multiple times, and it's just not comparable, Jesse. So what is your point? Where are you going?
No, the
Because we
point
need to
here
move on
is
with the
I have to
budget.
bring it out, okay? This come from someone, okay? And I told him I'm gonna bring it out in addition to the free golf lessons that were mentioned,
Okay.
6 free golf lessons. He said, hey, if golf is an amenity, why don't we just increase what we're paying now, you know, in HOA, and make golf free also, and we can increase the number. No, I mean, I
Okay,
realize
thank
there
you.
would be many objections.
Thank you,
I'm
Jesse.
just bringing it out.
Yeah, I would like to just mention that this is only 2 hours, you know, and we're only on the second item on our agenda. So I would like to just go ahead and proceed.
Okay, we're going to then move on to Jason, go to there you go. And now we're on to Mark Birchfield's area. Mark Birchfield's golf course maintenance, the largest item that was in a year-over-year change, and so year-over-year, golf course maintenance increased mainly due to staff labor costs. I'm sorry, what? I'm on, no, so if we're going to go to the chart, let's go to the charts.
21.
Okay, so year over, okay. Here we go, we're going to talk now. Year over year, the increase, one of the largest increase in Mark Birchfield's budget is $407,503, and that's related to labor. What this is the plan was to add 5 additional staff members to address drought-tolerant areas on the golf course throughout the community. This is currently handled by artistic maintenance, and instead will revert to Mark Birchfield to address. This, as I've talked to the board, there is a cost increase, but there's also what I call, and it's a non-financial term because you can't really quantify it, but a happiness quotient, I call it. And we have a lot of complaints from the members who live on Laguna Seca, not Gary Burkle, but 14 through 16 on hole 6. And so the complaints have been, it's not getting done, I see weeds. And one of the things that when we've contracted this out, they can only get to X amount of the community per time. You know, they only have so many resources available, so many days. And the Mark Birchfield brought up about 3 years ago the idea of bringing this back into his area so he could be proactive. I did a similar thing in another HOA that I managed. You had we called it a weed crew. And they would just, that's all they did is they hit throughout the year every section of drought tolerant because they have to check the emitters. They have to check to make sure the dead debris is moved, any debris is moved, plants are healthy, getting water, are manicured correctly. And so we're proposing in this budget with the sacrifice that David has made in his staffing that we would add this to Mark Birchfield's department for staff. Now, other things that's happening within Birchfield's department is irrigation water is expected to decline in the budget year over year, roughly $76,000. Related to that is the water declines, the irrigation power needed for those pumps and everything will also decline. We're expecting the budget decline about $29,000 roughly. And general electricity utility costs based on what we're tracking on usage for the department, the budget would decline $17,413. Lastly, gas and oil, we are tracking it as less usage within the department, so that budget would decline $10,000. Also, the last decline is in maintenance contracts. We're expected to decline $85,886, and this is the removal of artistic from golf course maintenance, and that budget would be removed. Finally, a green belt, which is 35% of the golf course allocated to common area, that would increase because the net department is increasing. So whenever the department expenses increase, that green belt amount will increase. And so with that, I'm going to let Birch talk about a little bit about the department, the importance of having this weed group, the importance of WaterSolve, which is the product he's using on the course. And so with that, Birch, go ahead and why don't you use mine? So,
This one's on.
oh, okay, that's working.
Good morning. Welcome to our annual budget workshop. I'm pleased to be here. Some of the things that are happening on the golf course over the last few years have been to be environmentally correct as well as self-sustainable. And water costs have been on the rise. Every year we get an increase from the city of Banning. The only remedy to that is less water use or making your water more efficient. I did a lot of research over the last 2 years, and I've had a lot of testing done on our soils and our water, and our soils are very hard to penetrate. They're adobe type soils, And the kind of water we're getting from the city, although it's good and a lot of it's drinkable, I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it, but it's not very good for our grass and the current soil minerals that we have in our profile. So I was able to find a product that we can inject into the main lines directly. And it's been proven to be successful as far as decreasing water use, but more than that, lowering water costs and being more efficient and improved turf and plants. In this product, also, we are getting our emitters and our pipes cleaned because it's the acid in it. And that's just one component. But what I'm saying is one of the biggest problems in the landscape area has been efficient watering. The drips there's a drip on every plant. And that's all hard plumbed. But the point is when the calcium builds up inside these little tubes, there's backup of pressure and the emitter flies 20 feet. This is a product that's going to be helping the golf course, our pipes, and definitely our plants. In regards to looking at the labor, we've been operating deficiently for a long time for 2 golf courses. And this is not a complaint. You take what you get and you make it as good as you can. And I think that we've improved the golf courses in many ways, as well as the perimeter areas. But when I look at the drought tolerant area, it just wasn't to my level of tidiness, presentation, cleanliness, and aesthetics. And so I know I'm a fool, probably, for stepping up and offering to do this. But what I'm hoping to do is create a relationship with the residents in a way they know that we are putting some good effort to it. I believe it will be successful. I will ask for some patience because as we get this going, I'm going to be learning some new things. I'm not a horticulturist, but I have a background in it, and I'm going to make the very best out of it. It's going to be about working smarter, not dumber. Smart is by utilizing the tools that are on the market for us to do the things. Plant growth regulators, pre-emergence, these kind of things that have residual and will cut down on labor. So the first year is going to be very important, and it's going to be also a learning curve. But I appreciate the opportunity to do it. I hope I don't let anybody down. I know that I'm going to get a lot of phone calls, but as I'm saying, everybody out there in 97 land, please give me a chance to get it under my feet. And that's pretty much what I've got. Over the future, and in the past, ever since COVID, the market has changed for commodities, fertilizer, and chemicals that we utilize. The fertilizer is made utilizing petroleum-based products, which means cooking it, blending it, and using resources from across the pond. We have to import a lot of that. And that's where a lot of the costs have been going to me. We really haven't boosted these accounts as much as maybe what we see on a year-to-year basis, but I do make sure that what we do is efficient and it's needed, and I'll continue to do that. My staff will grow. Will we use the staff on the golf course? My feeling about that is I need to find out what this staff will be able to do, how long it will take them to do certain things. If we have a big event where we need a body or two, I'll make the determination at that point that we can sacrifice hours on the landscape areas of the drought tolerant. but I think it's gonna be like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. I think you've gotta be out there continuously and working on it, and not just here and there. To me, it just takes constant care, because the expectation is high. Everybody wants it to look nice. So I do too. This is why we're doing this. Let's see, I'm trying to think what else. I haven't touched on gas and oil. Very interesting line item. We're really not paying that much less on fuel, but I see that there's some efficiencies going on with our newer equipment, and the equipment is running really efficiently with the improved newer equipment. So our numbers have gone down this year. And I'm not conserving anything, I'm just realizing that we must be using less gas. And the only thing that controls that number is gonna be the cost per gallon and the amount of gallons we use out there. And so we've at least reduced some of our usage. I don't feel we're getting that good of pricing on gas like we did years ago, and like the rest of the country's getting due to the taxes. But other than that, the department's running fairly well, and I've got 22 guys that really appreciate working here and being here, and the morale over there is what I call, depending on which day of the week it is, they're always happier on a Friday. But managing 23 and now moving up to another 5, it creates a new challenge for me. I am feeling better, I'm doing better, and I believe we have a transplant coming very soon. So I think my energy level and the things that I like to do will come back to me very soon. I'm very optimistic.
Okay, with that, there was also a fact question regarding, fact sent some questions last night regarding sand. And what we do is when we look to annualize, we also look to make corrections in that annualized number, because we know at a point they're gonna stop. And so there's a fallacy I've talked about with when you annualize numbers, is you expect that trend to continue, instead of, for like sand, where he reaches his budget level, he will not order sand anymore for that period. And so that's where we came with sand, and that sand is really the silica that is needed in.
Yeah, there's different types of sand that we utilize on the golf course for different types of needs. Sand can be bunker sand, which is completely different than really what we put out when we do leveling or top dressing on the greens, tees, fairways. We utilize that line item for mulch, so when we do put out some of the winter seed, we have a little bit of mulch out there. We also utilize a divot mix. When we repair our divots, I like to put a little organic into it and a little bit of color, so that it doesn't stand out and look so, not attractive. So, but in that, I really, as a manager, this was a separated account years ago, before I got here. We maintained it. The numbers have changed and gone down and dwindled. But in the way that I look at things, if I need sand, a sand product, I put it where I need to. I mean, that's just what I try to do. But most of all, there is a difference in sand for the golf course and bunker sand. And so.
Now we'll open up for questions. Questions from the board?
Yes, I have a question. How much money are we losing by switching these 5 staff from artistic maintenance to first service? I'm not sure it's necessary.
Well, you're going to pay definitely more, because you're going to have.
Do we have a number?
I think I had provided that it was 300,000 addition, then the subtraction of David's position, which was 90, so then you were down to 210. The elimination of artistics contract, which is another 85, so you're down now to 100 and 150, 140 roughly net increase year over year. What is the difference is now you have a daily activity out there versus every 3 or 4 weeks. It's just proactive.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mark, I just want to talk, can you talk just briefly about, how the water is controlled, on the golf course? We had some discussion yesterday, and I appreciate what you're doing with this water solve and, improving the absorption. But how is just education-wise, how is the water controlled? And is it efficient, in your opinion?
I utilized a weather station up on the back side of the driving range, and I've got a central control system, which is a computer, which individually can be, each sprinkler head out there should be able to be individually controlled. Some of them are bound together like 2-on-1 because of the spacing and what happened back in the years when they put this in. I don't rely on the weather station, but I do need the data. We do daily scouting. We have probes in our hands. We go out and we look and see in these key areas where we're holding water and where we're not. The greens are our most, prized commodity. And it's not just using technology. It's years of experience with the staff that I have, my assistant, my irrigators, and then also knowing this property. I just know this property, and we're finding that we are more efficient in our watering. To put it mildly, spacing is really important out there. The control is important. We'll be requesting a new irrigation computer because the computer that I've got now is not going to be supported anymore. It's 8, 9 years old. So we'll be looking at that for more efficiency and more control. The network we have is called OSMAC. It's radio controlled. It's radio controlled, and it's very efficient. It works very well here. And I want to continue to use that. I just want to upgrade it into today's a little bit better technology and components because parts are getting hard for me to get.
Thank you.
Yes.
I had also a question, Mark. I know when you took me on a tour of the golf course back, I think in late April or maybe early May, you were showing me and we were pointing out the weeds in the drought-tolerant area and some of how you would manage that. So I wondered if you could just share with us a little bit more of your vision and details around how you will deploy the 5 additional people. Is that Monday through Friday, or is it 7 days a week? And are they divided by zones? So, rotating, or you're working the same zone there is, how much can one person get through? And this is all 36 holes, right?
It's both sides of both sides of the property.
And their hours, because you talked about also being able to use them to deploy them for other events and activities, but could you just talk a little more in detail? I'm sure you have a vision in your head of how you'll deploy them and what that workload will be, what you can accomplish, each of them in a day.
The way I'm trying to address this, I've been thinking about it for a long time, and as I asked, a little bit of patience going up front because I'm sure I'm gonna make adjustments as I go along and I look at efficiency. But right now, the lead guy that I'm going to be looking for is going to be someone that has the responsibility of checking the irrigation, the valves, and then we're going to have a lead landscape guy that's going to know the horticultural aspect and we'll be trimming and pruning in one segment, and then we'll be weeding and cleaning up and removing debris on the other. And I'm going to put together a schedule that's going to go around that I believe is going to be much more repetition. It's going to be much more frequent. And I believe with that being done, a lot of these plants out there need to be used, cut back, but the more you top these things, the more you prune them, the more they grow. That's just the way it is. So growth regulators will be important. So when you ask about, are the guys going to be, I don't know yet. I mean, not totally, because I got to see how efficiently I can manage this. I know that the summers will be more busier than the winters. In the winter, we want to address irrigation changes, plant removal, plant replacement, and we want to have a sense of cleanliness. And as you all know, schedules are made to be changed, but progress will be a big part of that. I'm not intending on using those people on the golf course other than in the drought tolerant. I've got to give them a chance to go out and show me what we could do. And all I've done is watched for 8 or 9 years here, but I think it's about management and the people that you put there. I've got to have at least one very good lead guy, and I'm looking for that person if this goes through.
Thank you.
I have a question for you, Mark. Do you have an assistant superintendent, right? Someone that
Yeah,
you
he's
can
my-
refer to?
He's my assistant, Guillermo Oliveras.
Okay, and is he as proficient as you are on some of this technology?
Guillermo knows the technology. It's basically, I've mentored him for 18 years.
Oh, okay.
So when my program that I use agronomically, although he may not know the science, he understands what we're doing and why we're doing it. And the timing aspect, he's very good. He's been doing this longer than me. But as far as technique and understanding the ways about going about it, Guillermo is very good. And I'm so pleased to have this man because he works well with the staff. He keeps the morale alive, and he's so darn calm. And, you know, that's the opposite of me.
Thank
So
you.
It's good for us.
Thank you.
Chris, I heard you say yesterday that you were going to put sand on the back nine over here on the big course. Is there going to be any sand budgeted for the executive course?
So the sand that was planned for the back nine, I got it, we're
Okay.
too many. The back nine is for that bunker reliner project where they would replace. So we've done everything on the championship course except the back nine fairways. And so the sand would be used there. There is some sand there, and one board member in particular brought up your concern that there was plastic coming through on the north side. Now, talk to Mark Birchfield about that. There aren't liners on the north. That may be actual drainage pipe. So we will be addressing that. And I do know you've had concerns with and Bertram, you might want to talk about that, of how we're going to address the north bunkers with fluffing or whatever, because that's one concern Bill has.
Yeah, I thought you put, about 3 years ago, I thought you put new liners in over on the executive course.
No, there were never any liners. Bill, to give you a little bit of history on it, we did a bunker reno, so to speak, and I didn't put liners in over there is about 5 years ago. And I did some research on it, and I couldn't find a liner that I thought would have the integrity that I was looking for, because sand rakes pull the liners up, the felt liners and that are out there, and you end up having to redo the bunker anyway. And a lot of times the drainage doesn't work. We went out and redid all the drains for the north course, and then we put in this, it's plaster sand, but it percolates at about 60 inches an hour of water, which means it just goes right through it. The drains are really surprisingly doing very well with this situation. But I've always got plaster sand in the shop, and we constantly are going out and replacing sand. There are places that will surface unexpectedly because you can't always see what's going on, but we also bought a new attachment for the power rake, which is smaller and more nimble, which will actually cultivate and it'll fluff. Right now we're using the teeth of a rubber teeth, and I don't think they do anything. And so we've got this attachment being shipped to us right now, and we think it's going to be a much more improved product over there.
Well, I think that's good, but, you know, you're gonna drag that around. We need 6 inches of sand in each one of those traps.
You need how much?
6 inches.
Oh,
For a real sand trap, I mean, you can't hardly hit out of them, okay? And for 5 years, you've been telling me you're gonna put sand over there, okay? So anyway, I love you. You're my favorite golf superintendent. You're getting an A+ and everything, but you're flunking out on sand traps for the executive course.
Is that clear?
Thank you.
I think I got it.
Consistent.
Yeah. I love you too, Bill. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we're going to move on. Thank you, Mr. Birchfield. David, thank you. We're going to move on to administration. That will be on page, if you're looking at our friendly handouts, right up at the front, page 2, I believe it starts, or page 4, sorry. I could say, okay, in this case, what we have is year-over-year change about 222,000, 7.76% increase. When we look at the revenue over for the non-assessment revenue in administration changed about 56,000. One of the negative contributors to that was the decline in social memberships. We're projecting lower based on home sales. This also will affect the RRA fee that is part of the reserve replenishment assessment. We're expecting to see a decline in that, just as housing sales have not kept up where we had thought they would be. This might change with the Fed lowering rates, how many of the rates they do through the end of the year, but right now we're conservative with that. When we talk about other big items within that department, bad debt increased 23,000, expected because of continued delinquencies. Bank fees declined as we are eliminating the portion for food and beverage. With the onboarding of CCL, we were able to reduce that. Insurance, this is a large area. We've put in an estimate based on the premiums, based on what we're hearing in the industry, increase of $176,580, and that's a big chunk because as a whole, we're expecting $624,119. Now, there may be a change in that. The board has engaged Brown & Brown to review the insurance, to rebid these policies, so there might be a change. We will not know until the second week of October. They're moving as fast as they can, but right now we put a protective estimate of about $624,000 in insurance. Admin staff is expected to increase as we are adding a staff member proposed in this budget that was lost in 2022 when it was not funded, along with benefit and cost increase, wage increase. AMS collection is expected to increase from the budget. There was a talk about that, and I'll answer the question that the FAC had provided on that. And then finally, we're expecting computer support to decline around 31,000 as less technical support because food and beverage has now been outsourced to CC&L. So a couple of items that the FAC had submitted as questions. Transponder income versus transponder expense. Can we break even the income and expense? Not really. We expense when we order the product, and the revenue is based on when they actually sell. So and we don't inventory those items, they're immediately expensed, so they don't sit on the balance sheet. So that's part of the issue. Well, you could possibly, if the board directed to say, well, I want to smooth over that and just allocate that like a prepaid over the year, that's a possibility you could do. But historically, we've not done that, but that's a change the board could ask for. Continuing on the questions that the FAC submitted. General counsel. General counsel services were budgeted at 45 versus 89,000 annualized. Were there special expenses incurred during 2025 that will not be expected in 2026? There were. You might remember we had a secondary lawyer, Wayne Gorelnick, that assisted with the CCL contract negotiations, the Spectrum negotiations, and as well as reviewing the RFP for the real estate office. And so in essence, there were pretty much two legal counsels the board was using that we're expected to see a decline. That was an item that was brought up by the board to decline because they don't foresee, knock on wood, that we would need legal counsel. So you'll see a decline in that. Collection costs, there was a suggestion, 131,000 roughly budgeted versus 136 annualized. Should expected increase, should we budget for 140? No, we feel that we're pretty comfortable with that collection cost at 131. I know projected we're hit 136. We are projected to go over budget from the 2025. But I believe there was a consensus that we feel comfortable with that 131,000. Now on AMS though, there was a debate about that. And I see that the FAC had said, hey, you budgeted 83,000 versus the 149,000 that we're seeing a trend. My concern with, I had originally budgeted this at 60,000, and Gary pinned me to the floor. I yielded. I'm just kidding. But there was a discussion of it should be a little higher. My concern is the reason I wanted, AMS represents amounts that are actually recovered from delinquent homeowners. So First Service, the association pays First Service when there are letters, other expenses related to that. And we wait for that delinquent member to pay. And we've been fortunate is because the AMS fee is like a trailing recovery. It isn't the amount that Birch missed a payment last week, and that's in AMS recovery. These are recoveries from prior periods. My concern is I'm seeing delinquencies increase, and my fear is that AMS should decrease. It has an inverse relationship because it's saying that I'm not going to collect those delinquency fees from the homeowners. The homeowners are going to go into a foreclosure process. If we collected that would be great. The trend has not been that good. And so we compromise, and I will use the word we compromised, Gary and the board compromised that we'll stick within 80 based on that assumption. So that's where that budget declined. Administrative miscellaneous. This was Mary Jo brought this up too. But budgeted 30,000, annualized 10. What the heck is going on? Well, you'll see a big change in the August financials, that there's some hits. So those are miscellaneous that are kind of a catch-all. And one catch-all we're seeing, unfortunately, is where if a gate arm falls on a car and we have to pay that, that's one of it. If one of Birch's, not Birch's trees, but the association's trees impacts a member's trellis or something, the association responsible. That miscellaneous, and we've seen that trend going up, and if you saw August financials, you saw a huge amount hit there. That's why that 30,000, I'd like to keep it in there. Office supplies, budgeted 38, we're annualized 32. We're just seeing cost increase. Ed Anand's paper for his posters, we've started moving toward posters, more of that. Those costs are generally increasing. We kind of see the increase moving forward into 2026. Great question about admin staff. And so that administrative staff, the board's, the FAC asked, hey, you've got this budget for this versus last year. It's about 160, was it 163,000? Let's see. It's about 134,000. But nonetheless, the issue is what are the assumptions for that? So this would be one additional staff. We used to have 4 customer service staff members in the front, and 2022, the board reduced it at that time to just 3. What the impact is on the community is a delay in transponders, delay in some responses to ClickPay issues, registration issues. Now we're going to start adding dog park license and everything. There is a need for that position. That's why we asked the board to fund that. The assumptions of other wage, we are expected to see is health insurance increase as well as some workers' comp increase for employees. The wage increase for that department was an average about 4%. We're trying to move some of the the lower wage people up to competitive salaries. There was a little chart, page 12, that I kind of laid out my little, in the top left corner of annual increases that the boards of the past have done and kind of applied that to vendors versus CPI. And if you look at CPI for the period of 2019 to 2024, CPI increased, it was like 34.6% or something like that, while the increases for wages and vendors only increased about 15.4. So in essence, costs have gone up in CPI, but the wages and what have gone to some of the vendors have not increased, and that is causing a problem when we try to recruit. Hence, that's why several of your items, you've asked great questions about, why are you running under budget in payroll? Positions not filled, position unable to hire this, and that's what's going on. It's the dynamics of trying to hire people at a competitive wage. We've had some difficult, competent people in competitive wage. So that was the increase for admin. A great question about telephone and cable, and this is throughout. The board also asked about this. And so there's a couple things happening with that. There's some realignment. So where cable for the clubhouse was billed to admin, recreation should be paying for that. Edanon had worked on that and realigned the billing. So you're going to see changes throughout the departments of some ups and downs. What also changed, though, is some increased speeds. And when we did some changes to the account, Spectrum came back and after the board had negotiated the bulk cable, there are some natural increases that happen, unfortunately, with increasing speed. They couldn't give us a break on that. And also in the new year, we're going to be enhancing some of the technology that relates to sending the gate. It's the gate internet speed and a backup, so it's a redundant system. So we've had a problem. The phones go down. Members can't call anyone. They try to call the gate. What's happening? No one answers because the phones aren't working. So we're proposing in this also that there will be some redundancies in this that will, if the system goes down, I have a redundant system that then can pick it up. And that's also working with our phone system, and Simple Solutions had proposed this, that we would never be down on phones. So that is planned in the new year. That's why you've seen throughout, I think Sandra was asking, great, you realign cost, but I'm seeing cost increase overall. And that's why there's additional cost for increased speeds, but there's also, we're adding the redundancy in 2026. So you'll see that.
I have one question, if I could interrupt, about the home sales.
Mm-hmm.
So we're projecting a home sales of 190 for next year?
Correct.
Okay, which is 16 a month. And one thing to be considered is that if we were to have an in-house real estate office, there's always been a significant increase in sales in those communities and other communities like ours. Also, if the Fed fund rates are reduced, I believe that we go back to the 23, 24 home sale rate is going to be significantly higher than 16 per month.
And that might be, and we talked about that. My concern is that I'd rather be conservative, because last year the board wanted to be a little more aggressive, and unfortunately the market has not shown that. So we were a little conservative. That may be, if Jerome Powell does change things, that would be great. And what the board decides with the real estate office, that's I'm not taking that into account for the budget. So I did not take that into account.
Chris, I did have one question. How much did the group insurance increase?
For
Just overall, as a benefit to our employees?
to First Services employees,
Yes.
we're seeing projected, it's between 8 and 10% increase.
Okay, that's not bad. Okay.
Yeah, not as bad, but when you look at the insurance for the association, that's the bigger
Yes.
nut we've got to crack, and the board is working on that as we speak. Hopefully, it will not be as high, but we need to be conservative as we move forward with this budget.
Okay, thank you very much.
And then you asked about, the FAC asked about, not you, but the FAC asked about foreclosed home sales. A 62% increase, yes, and I talked to the board about this as well. You have to also put insurance on some of these homes, and now there'll be 14 homes that are potentially on there. A big chunk of that is insurance. So we do need to keep that line item at that level. Any other general questions?
Chris, I just want to circle back to the telephone and internet. So I think I found them all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 accounts: administration, recreation, property protection, utilities, golf course, and golf operations. And so the proposed budget for 2026 is $86,000 when you add those up. The run rate for the last 12 months has been $50,000. And if you take what's been spent through August this year and divide by 8 times by 12, you would get 52,000. So the proposal is a 2/3% increase. So that's the cost of having the additional speed for our improvements to gate access?
The increased speed, but also the redundancy that we're going to add in the new year. They're going to add some additional charges for that.
So that's $35,000 a year to do those redundancies. That's the
Potentially, if we
quote that we have?
Potentially, if we can try to get savings through this and work with Spectrum, there might be savings.
Where did we get the $35,000 to do this redundancy? Is that part of your installation
okay.
quote?
There is some,
Is it-
Jason's saying that there is some potential accounts that we will be able to eliminate. There is some savings. I haven't quantified that at this time.
So we don't have a quote from anyone to do these redundancies?
No, we have just been told that it's an option. I don't think Simple Solutions gave us a quote, or did they? Okay, we can look, but there was an estimate that was at one time given to us, and that's kind of what we plugged in to our charges for the phones and internet.
Okay.
So, this is my first time, ladies and gentlemen. I've never gone through this process, so bear with me for a minute. I'm going to say some things that are probably out of character for me, but I feel that representing the community, I need to ask these questions or at least make some statements. It was said early on, and this is just business. It was said early on that when we have a commodity, I don't know if sand's a commodity or not. No. Is it? Okay. So it says when we get to X amount of, like if we budget $50,000, let's say, and we get to that, we just stop. Something like that was, whatever the number is. So the number was $5,000 for this year. And we've spent $14,000. So I disagree with that comment. Number two, hiring 5 people from Artistic at the rate that he gave us yesterday in our annual meeting with him would cost us $360,000. So adding 5 people to get on top of the drought tolerant areas would cost us $360,000. And correct me if I'm wrong, but if we hire 5 additional FSR employees, it's going to cost us $447,833. That difference is $117,000. And we can go over these numbers afterwards, but we got a new phone system this year, and so most of the cost that we're going back and forth on is speed. It's not necessarily phone issues.
Right.
Okay. I just want to make clear on that.
But I would like to, if
Go
I
ahead.
could add about so that 447 isn't just the 5 people. So just like the fact it asked about admin, you have increases for the staff in there, their insurance increases.
I understand.
8 to 10. So when I answered Bob, it was about 300,000 for those 5 people roughly. Is that cost?
Okay. Great. That's why I brought it up, because we've gone back and forth so much on this. There's been a lot of talk so far about huge increases in certain areas. I think you made a comment that 8 to 10% wasn't too bad for increases in taking care of the employee. And I get that. I'm 100%. I'm an employer, okay? There's a lot of big increases, and then there's some that are actually decreases. Thank you for clearing that up, and I'll shut up and let you go back to doing what you're doing.
I think, did I answer the fact questions, all the ones I think that were related to admin I've answered, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if there's any additional items the board or anyone else would like to ask? Jess?
Can you just enlighten me on this deferred revenue spectrum of, right now, it's $1.6 million.
It's actually 1 point,
It's $1,615,000 that's showing in your balance sheet.
right now it is, and that will go away once the subs have achieved or received their 3 payments. So what you have to do, give me 1 second. So there was 1.663 that was received from Spectrum. 225,000 will go to the subs. The board directed that some of that front door for each of the units within Fairway Villas, Lakeside, Lakeside 2 would be given, just passed through to them. So in actuality, we're about 1.438 million will be available. And then we amortize that over the 60 months of the contract period. So it's $23,975 per month that would be amortized.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the homeowners or the home and property insurance negotiations that's going on right now. Because you got a 39% increase.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Is it? That would be astronomical. But anyway, good luck. I hope you can.
Projected 39%, but we have a new provider, and we're working twice a month with them, and we should have some numbers this time next month.
Oh, okay. very
And when you
good.
say 39%, what are the two numbers that are from what to what?
The 447.
447 to 620 something, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and the 447, was that the budget this year?
Yeah, that was the budget in 2025, but the actual is coming higher.
Yeah, and the actual is coming in much higher than that. So we're running well over budget this year. And I think the budget increase for next year is actually fairly moderate over where it is we're actually running this year. But Brown and Brown had some areas where we were potentially overpaying, but other areas where we needed to add coverage. There's always new angles on how to sue somebody, especially a company, for something. I mean, he was rattling off things, I'm like, are you kidding me? But anyhow, this is the industry. So, Bill, it's not entirely clear cut. But the big hit we took this year, where we're running way over budget.
Yeah. Okay, thank
And you know, Sandra brought up some of the risk, and Brown & Brown has identified areas that we and the board will need to look at. Some of the practices that we've done in the past, we may have to change some of the processes just to protect the association related to golf carts. You know, there's things that are out there that are a risk. And we live in California, highly litigious state. So with that, I'm looking at Bobby, only gave me 30 seconds to respond to that. So we've got to move on. I'd like to get, if there are no further questions, on to planning compliance with Ed Tenisa. Okay, moving on. It's very simple department, 4 staff members. The year-over-year change, 2025's annual subsidy was $312 roughly. Now it's going to go to $343, about a 9.99%. The biggest part is labor costs are the driver for this department's expense in 2026 with wage increases and benefit costs that I've talked about that happen with admin. So, Ed Tenisa, enlighten us, please.
So good morning, everybody. Regarding the labor, so I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. Planning compliance was down 1 person starting in February. And it took us several months to find someone who not only had the technical skill to work with the department, but also a degree of personal skill to have the compassion to work with Sun Lakers. This is not an easy role to fill. There is a balance of professional stubbornness along with compassionate response. Planning compliance, we hear the worst of everything. And I say that my job makes me a professional pessimist, because I not only hear the worst of everything, I see the worst, and I'm often the only adult in the room, let's put it that way. So finding someone who was compatible not only with the corporate doctrine of first service, but also with the level of humanity and compassion needed to work with Sun Lakes Country Club. This took time. We did have some temps step in to fill the more repetitive portions of the role: paperwork, envelopes, paperwork. And what I found was it was better to be without temporarily and have on-site staff work with Sun Lakers in a compassionate way than have a crowbar sitting at a desk that we would have to clean up after later. The good news is we do have a permanent position, so planning compliance is now fully staffed. And what this means is you're probably going to hear a lot of complaints, because now that we are fully staffed, now that my new associate is up and running, we are now catching up on the items we had to set aside back in February. So many of the complaints that you, esteemed district delegates, have been hearing about recurring parking issues, about neighbor concerns that seem to have not gone anywhere, about requests for improvements, status updates, we're catching up on those. And in the process, I can promise you, those residents that thought they got away with things these past few months, their reckoning is coming. So what this means for the budget: the vehicles that was purchased last year are running great. Thank you very much. We have full staff now, so we will not have as much overtime as we did before, because everyone is carrying the load. We're cross-training so that any one of my associates can pick up for another associate if they have to step out. So our numbers should remain level, unless somebody decides to have a tap dance contest on the restaurant tables, which I ask you please don't do. Any questions for me?
We look forward to your catching up.
Thank you. We'll move on then to recreation. So Jason, if you can update that. So on recreation, what has changed year over year? Labor in this department is the largest driver of expense in 2026. What you'd see also on page 12, the layout of full-time, part-time, and the staffing. What we've done is we are going to convert 2 monitor positions to full-time status from part-time. Thus, we'll have 9 full-time staff and 1 part-time staff versus the configuration of 7 full-time and 3 part-time that we have right now. That's the largest increase. Subsidy we're expecting for 2026 is $773,733, a change of $105,000 roughly year over year, 15.71% increase. And Jason and Linda will provide some insight on that department.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Almost afternoon, I guess. What has happened over the years, we have gotten more busy, which is a good thing. But what that has done with the labor, with the rec, is we used to be able to run with 1 monitor, on a weekend. We can no longer do that. It used to be Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday. We used to be able to run with like a 1 monitor shift. But now with the increased activities, we've had to go to 2. And to be able to do that without, breaking any labor laws, with the part-time we have, makes it kind of tough, especially when somebody calls out. So increasing those 2 to a full-time status allows Linda the flexibility to, allow those guys to work a couple extra days, which will fit in when somebody takes a vacation or somebody calls out sick. So like Chris said, that's the biggest driver, and that driver is basically just off demand of use of the facilities.
Jason, when we met and talked through the budget, I had a note that under recreation activities, there was about $5,000 in there, which actually is being carried now, I think, in activities or entertainment by CCL, but we didn't make the reduction. So I just wanted to bring that up in case that's a correction that is
I will
still
tell you
relevant.
this, and I think the reason why the reduction wasn't made, Sandra, was that Wednesday, that 5,000 was an unbudgeted number for this year. That's something that was never put in the 2025 budget because that was something that came out of the lounge reopening at the end of 2024. So November 2024, when we reopened, budget had already been done.
Yeah.
The board thought, hey, you know, we're reopening this place. Let's go ahead and have, a musician in there Wednesday nights for happy hour. It kind of did well. People liked it. And so it just stuck and rec absorbed that expense.
Okay.
So I think that's why it wasn't reduced because it was never budgeted for in reality anyways.
Okay, because the budget.
Yeah, that's
for-
still there. Yeah, the Music Under the Stars is still part of rec, so that once a month through the summertime, CCL will not pay for that as actual a rec activity.
Okay, because the budget this year was 47,000. Over the last 12 months through August, we've only spent 36. So was just thinking if things were staying the same.
I think you'll see it
at the
pick up a
same
little bit
activity
as we
level.
come into the holidays. I think you'll see some rec activity expenses pick up.
Okay, and the budget increases accordingly
Correct.
to go with that? Okay.
Yeah, rec is kind of seasonal in a sense. You know, when we get hit the holidays, we usually have a little bit of more
parties.
expense and then kind of die out. Yeah, so.
I have a question in reference to the 2 part-time to 2 full-time. What essentially are they doing, and why did we need to change those positions to full-time?
Okay, so like we talked to, it's the increase in activities. Running with the part-time, I can only work them 20 hours a week. When I have somebody with the increased activities, when I have somebody call off, now I'm kind of in a jam because I can't work them more than that. Adding the 2 additional allows me to make sure that I have 2 guys here now doing take care of the load on the weekends. Also, when somebody needs to have covered, I can actually Linda can work the schedule with those full time instead of the part time. That's the biggest change.
So these are monitors?
Correct.
Thank you.
Jason, when we talk about this, the events, Music Under the Stars specifically, I mean, we looked at, and I had CCL give me some numbers for how much revenue we receive when we have music on the veranda versus music in the ballroom versus when we have Music Under the Stars. And then amazingly, when we have Music Under the Stars, the revenue drops significantly.
I don't doubt that one bit, Gary.
So as much as it's a positive for the community, it's a negative when it comes to food and beverage.
Correct.
So I think we have to think about that and talk to CCL about it.
And that's simply, you guys, it's not like that's a financial change. That's just, we're not doing Music Under the Stars anymore. It'll be put on here on the veranda. It's not going to be on the pop-out and, go from there. But that's completely something we can do operational-wise with the board if they feel that is hurting, which I agree. Back when Music Under the Stars started 15 years ago or so, I remember the restaurant had a big old barbecue out on the driving range down there and would do chicken and hamburgers and hot dogs, all that stuff. People would buy it, and nobody brought their stuff.
Right.
Things have changed since then, and now Music Under Stars has turned into a picnic in the park, and everybody brings pop-ups and tables and food and drinks and games and everything, and it's like you say, it's great for the community. I love that event because everybody gets together and has fun. But you're right, it does affect business with the restaurant.
There's no reason we couldn't set up barbecues and barbecue hamburgers and hot dogs?
We work with CCL on that.
Yeah, okay, so these are just things we need to work out. Okay.
Okay, nothing more with recreation. We're going to move on to landscape. And so you get the Mark Schleiden was not available today, so I will take on his budget. I will be a nicer Mark than Mark, just kidding. Landscaping, year over year, we're looking at a change of $113,984, a 6.18% increase. Landscape maintenance contract is expected to increase by $20,000 based on the projected rate increase. Irrigation system repairs are expected to increase by roughly 16,000 based on activity trend over the last 2 years. And then finally, we're going to see an increase in green belt from the increased cost of golf course maintenance. Roughly 69,000 will hit this department. So on page 5, at the bottom of it is the landscape. Now, the FAC had asked a question regarding landscape extras. What is that? And so landscape extras, year-over-year, budget-to-budget change, we're looking at a 9.95%. What this is everything outside the contract with our with Artistic falls into this category. So if there's been runoff on the slopes and it's in the street, Artistic is dispatched. They're shoveling that up and cleaning up the street. We have a wind event where palm fronds are all over the street. That is, they're called out because that's extra work. They're out there and they're picking it up to maintain the beauty of the community. And so we're actually expected with the contract increase, but we've seen the trend of more the homeowners, just like we've talked about with the drought-tolerant areas. There's an expectation, a high expectation for clean, tidy facilities, and so we're expecting the use of extra landscape extras with Artistic in the new year. Hence, we've increased that budget to the $68,451. And I think that's it from the FAC question. Are there any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What was the increase for the contract alone?
So we're expecting, and that's on page 12, right in the center, probably small font, sorry. I have the projected increases for major contracts, and so.
Oh, okay.
We're looking, the landscape is about a 5% increase.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions related to landscape? Okay, we're going to move on then to, I think it's community patrol? I'm sorry, maintenance. And that's going to be page 6 of your packet. So year over year, we're actually seeing and this one I put in red, a decline of $16,629. The annual subsidy would be $1.27 million for maintenance. The issue is the budget was reduced year over year as actual expenditures have been less due to negotiated pricing.
Chris, that's maintenance.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am sorry. I'm on property. Whoa, thank you. Thank you, Gary. You should be doing this present. Okay, sorry. Maintenance, $150,000 increase at 12.72. Here we go. Subsidy of 1.33 million. Some big changes that are within this department are the plumbing. Plumbing supply and services and supplies have increased 30 grand related to the current trend. I talked to the board about this from issues with the urinals breaking, the handles breaking, restroom leaks throughout the community. We've utilized more plumbing services and have for the last 2 years, so we've increased the budget to reflect that. Repairs and maintenance increased by 32,000 roughly. Relates to, again, with the trend on the last 2 years, building maintenance, the little things of the door stops breaking. We've had to increase that. We've seen more of the damage. And I think Mark Schleiden may have commented to the board that we've seen, and he said it maybe not in a politically correct way, if you know Mark, but I'll say it, there has just been an increase in damages to facilities, more than we've seen in the past. I don't know if people just aren't paying attention. When you have urinal handles breaking, causing a leak, did they use the hand or did they use their foot and kick the thing to break it? It's happening. We have it in, wall pieces breaking. Just little things that are just causing general maintenance. And we've just seen more of that, and hence Mark has had to address that to meet the high expectations of the community. Hence, the budget is increasing. Maintenance labor cost is expected to increase by $45,000. This relates to filling one of the existing positions along with wage and benefits. So Mark has been rolling with temps as it's been difficult to to recruit. He has in his budget to have not only one staff, which is Julie and himself, but 3 techs that would be able to do basic handyman work. And he's unfortunately been able to only fill 2 of those positions. This budget reflects filling 3. Janitorial service is planned to remain stable as the association retained a new company in early 2025 and was able to negotiate a price lower than the prior vendor. And then electric repair services have increased by 30 grand roughly based on, again, the trend we've seen over the last 2 years, increased usage of electricians to address facility street lighting, facility regular lights, outlets, GFI breaks, again, an increase in those costs. And that has led to Mark's budget, unfortunately, having to increase year over year. Now, the FAC had some questions on that. One was the repair and maintenance budget. Should it be increased to 110 based on the trend? Possible, but Mark has said with the increase, some of those repairs and maintenance may have had electrical or plumbing, and now that he's increasing those, he'll see those in that. He doesn't feel he needs to go that high in that. Regarding maintenance labor costs, there's an increase. What are some of the assumptions made? Annual increase, average in that department's 2.7. The problem is, and I think Mary Jo or Sandra had asked about this, is that's great you're doing that. What's the cost of hiring new technical staff? And that's where we're seeing a bigger change where the rate of a minimum wage just doesn't cut it for a technical. You're having to raise that cost. And so that's also part of the assumptions in the increases, not only the merit, but the bringing on 3 techs. What is their going rate? And that is expected to be higher. And then as I alluded to earlier with admin, the increase in insurance, et cetera, for the benefits. Janitorial supplies budgeted 73 and annualized at 81. The question is, should we go higher on that? Schleiden has said, feels that he can make that budget, which is at the 73,080. He feels that will be a good number to get in line. It just may have been a blip with the new company, and it should level out. HVAC maintenance versus HVAC contract, the budgets were flipped, and that it is correct because that HVAC contract is what is budgeted for the contract piece versus HVAC maintenance. And sometimes in coding of invoices, they've gone, maintenance has been coded to the contract. So this budget reflects what the true contract amount is and then what maintenance will be. So no, that is correct. That should be it. But you were right, because when I looked at that with Mark, that we identified that, so you caught on to it quick as well. That is what it should be.
Okay.
And then finally, the refuse collection, the concern from the FAC was, hey, you budgeted 66, annualized is 68. Should we go up to 71,000? And this, I don't think you're going to need to, that actually was probably utilities. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead, but I'll answer it anyways. Actually, we should be fine with refuse staying at the 66,912. What has happened here is, unfortunately, members have utilized the dumpsters for their own rubbish and everything. And Waste Management has been hitting us with extra charges because as they tried to lift that thing, the thing is full it's full, the weight. So you may have noticed if you've gone down to South Clubhouse, some other areas, that now there are metal cages. We've had to cage it. So we should start seeing those penalties decline. One area we are going to have to work with CCL is their area, because sometimes that gate is left open and just trash and we're getting some hits on there, and it's not CCL trash. So we're good with what we think is the budget for that.
Okay, very good.
Any questions on maintenance? Yeah, that Mark's not here, now you're going to.
Oh, yeah. No, just the comments. We need to stop kicking the toilets. We need to use our
Yes.
hand. And we need
Yes.
to put our own trash in our own trash can. We're hurting ourselves,
Yeah, we are.
So thank you for pointing that out.
Yep.
Yeah, I would like to comment that the 62.5% increase in plumbing services and supply is really, really unusual. I mean, were we over budget for the 48,000 this year?
We're projecting based on that, we could be over budget.
Or what have we spent this year in plumbing supplies? That we're jumping,
Bob, it's,
that we're
again,
jumping an extra $30,000.
year-to-date, the budget's 32, we've spent 33, so we're running pretty close to budget this year.
Right, so.
But I have the same question.
Yeah, so we're not over budget. It just seems like they're just picking a number, you know, it's just like, there's no special project, and all of
No.
a sudden we go up.
There's plumbing and electrical, Chris. Electrical is another one where, when you look at where we are year-to-date in 12 months, plumbing and electrical may have an opportunity if there's a chance to have Mark think that through.
Electrical, I don't think so, because the electrical started late bringing in a vendor to address that. So it's not a full year spread of that vendor working. Every other Friday, we have that vendor coming in and doing either street light change out, light issues. The work orders line up waiting for that person to come in. So it's not truly a full year of it, and we are expecting.
Because
that-
streetlights hit the reserve analysis, I thought.
Not the bulb, not the bulb.
Oh, okay.
So there you have to rent a scissor lift or whatever to get up there, change out the bulb. And so it's expensive.
Okay, because it still only annualizes to less than 30,000 and we're budgeting 50. So just trying to, anyhow, just take a look, that's all Chris is asking.
Fair
Thank enough.
Yeah, in the plumbing, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question, just as a HOA member. The street light bulbs, they're very much more bright. Are they LED?
They are LEDs, I think he's
And
changed-
so,
he's changed-
so this is
So
a white light.
what happens is, as we've had to change some of these, the LED, you can't just plug it in, you've got to change out also the,
Sure, the
not the ballast,
electricals,
but the,
yeah,
the head.
yeah,
And so that's added to those electrical costs with the head for the bulb.
okay.
Right.
But why is it a white light instead of a more an amber light? You know,
So
we didn't want to have light pollution in this HOA.
let me get your address, I'm going to put some spotlights on your house.
Thank
I'm just
you,
kidding, I'm just
thank you
kidding.
very
No, but-
much. We
No, so
appreciate
we
that.
can address that with Mark to say, what, is it too bright?
Very good, thank you.
You didn't want sunlight, you wanted a soft. Okay. Fair enough, fair enough. Okay. Any other questions on that? Moving on, thank you, Joe. Moving on to now, we're gonna get to the next department, property protection. This is where we saw a decline. Again, the budget was reduced year over year based on the negotiated price. We're coming in less on property protection than was budgeted. And we are right now looking at technology solutions that could be used. Now, we know that the contract potentially could increase. That's on page 12 again for, let's see, we had budgeted 4.7. And it's just, and also within that budget line item of 1.2, you might ask, well, Chris, we're trending at 1.44. You're going up to 1.22. Also, what's in there is extra duty where we might have them on a Friday, Saturday. Also with bingo, adding 4 hours to bingo service outside the normal contract. Those hours are plugged in there along with that price. So that is where we expect that 1.229 to hit. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to utilities. I'm kind of already gone over a little bit on utilities. I'm sorry, bulk cable, sorry about that. I know Gary was about to say, what are you talking about, bulk cable? Bulk cable, this is pretty straightforward. It's the contract rate's going to increase by 4%. The overall budget will only increase 1.55 because the board was able to negotiate, bringing the price down to a lower level. The only variable that happens are some of the taxes related, broadcast fees, et cetera, that change, but we're expecting a 1.55% increase year over year. This is pretty straightforward. Any questions? Okay, now we get on to utilities. Again, I talked about refuse earlier. That is one of the major drivers. We're also seeing a trend in natural gas usage going down, so we've reduced that budget. And common area water is expected to increase about 19,672. So the overall change is a 2.82% year-over-year change, 24,000. Any questions on utilities? Refuse is the big bad one on that, and like I said, we're addressing that. Okay, finally, this is part probably is the repair replenishment. So what I've handed the FAC and the board, they've received the reserve study first draft. It's not been amended with some of these changes. And there's also a long sheet. Let's see. I'm going to use yours, Birchie. So this sheet is a supplement to this. And what it is management's gone through and has evaluated the 2025 projects that were in the reserve as, hey, it's the end of year. Are you going to do any work on this? And what we've done is gone through all of it with all the team and addressed items that can be either deferred to 2026 or a future date. And that's what that does. So you could actually put side by side, go in here and say, what are the 2026 expected expenditures? They'll line up. There's the original, then what is revised. And so the big things for next year that we are planning to continue, we were able to reduce it down. The reserve study had a $9.9 million spend. But again, that was based on the estimate of life. When actual boots on the ground looking at items, it reduced down to 3.8 million is the expected spend. The largest pieces of that, just quickly, for time's sake, is the bunker work, 480. This is the bunker fairways 10 through 18 on the championship. Another large item is the controllers that Mark talked about, 403,000. Another couple of large items are, again, Mark Birchfield. There's a trend here. Greens, mowers, rough mowers. This is equipment that Birch has, and I do want to say prior FAC and prior procurement advisory had evaluated Birchfield's plan. He had a 3-year plan that has been completed. Now we are on the endeavoring, or we're moving forward with a new replacement plan for the equipment that was not addressed. And so these are pieces that he will need. Security gate access control system is on there, 481. We're working internally. If you've watched your board meetings as well as the project updates, that is an item the board is looking at. And then finally, streets at 414. That is the 2026 phase of streets. Any questions on the reserves? Okay, then we go to the last slide I think that everyone is waiting for. What does this all mean? All I've heard is up, up, up. And that is true. What we're looking at year over year is that the assessment would increase 6.49% to $410. That is a $25 increase year over year. And this will be, again, we'll have discussion. We'll look at some of the things that the board and the FAC have asked us to look at to see if there's any way to sharpen the pencils on this. But at this time right now, with the reserve contribution at the same level as 2025, and with the cost increases, et cetera, that is what we're looking at.
I would like to make a comment. If you refer to the board directives, there's 3 board directives addressing the fee increase. One is from Gary recommending a maximum of 5%. One of it is from myself recommending no more than $10 increase, and one is from Sandra recommending no more than $5 increase. So here we have a $25 projected increase, which is not in line with any of the board directives.
That is correct. It will now, that is management's best budget with the estimate of what the members' desires for more services, the increased costs. It will now come down to the board making the ultimate decision of where, if to meet those directives, what services would need to be cut back.
Yeah, I would just like to point out historically, last year the first draft came in at 414. We had 5 drafts and it ended up being 385. This seems to be, the draft number 2 was less than the 410, was 404. So it seems like as we review and evaluate, we increase it rather than pare it down as to what the directives are saying here. That's just my observation.
And that is true. It did go up from where draft 3, one of the changes, new information from CCL's budget items are in there. The reserve study draft coming out and evaluation of what that, so there were some changes that we
Well,
had to adjust costs up.
And in draft 2, Bob, the amount of the dues that went to fund reserves went from 60 to 54, I think was right. And I don't think that's wise. So I think that's part of the increase, because they did make cuts to expenses, but yeah, I think we're at like 408. So they made cuts to expenses, but part of this is how much do we want to be funding the reserves as well. But yeah, I know in budgeting, sometimes you go back and look at it, it actually goes the other way.
No, you're right, Sandra. The repair contribution had a drop, and we turned around in draft 3 and did raise that up. That is one of the biggest drivers.
So there were 3 written directives from the Board of Directors, wish lists of, mine was verbal, if you remember. Mine was very basic. Tell us what we need to do to pay our bills, Chris. We haven't been paying our bills on time. So I know we're going to whittle away at this a little bit more, but I appreciate the hard work that you and your team have done. And you're telling us the truth. You're telling us what it costs for us to live here and what it costs for us to pay our bills on time. So I know there's still a little bit more work to do. We're going to find out on the insurance. That's a big ticket item for us. There'll be a little bit more whittling, I'm sure. But I, for one, believe that everybody that lives in this community pays their bills on time. That's why they live here. And as a community, we have not, as a whole. And so I appreciate the hard work, and I look forward to the outcome of this.
Any other closing items? Or? I think that was it.
We have resident comments? Resident comments?
Mic, podium mic needs to be turned on.
Pull it down a little bit. There you go.
Ken, will you turn it on for him? He'll get it for you.
Ken Johnson, Birdie Drive.
Hi. So residents are concerned about the cost of the golf course. You had a flyer, 5 golf lessons, $125. I'm doing that. I'm getting involved with the golfing. Whether I'll ever use the course or not, I don't know. But I think a way that you might be able to get residents involved, maybe offer more courses like that, or if they don't want to golf, I understand that you're not allowed to drive your golf cart on the golf course. Maybe after a certain time, you allow members to experience the beauty of the golf course. Maybe they'd be more appreciative of it and be willing to spend money, you know, on the budget and not be so concerned about all the money that's going out there, because it is beautiful there. And golfing only goes to a certain amount of time. If you can just walk the course or drive your golf course, and then members can see the beauty of where their money is being spent. And my other comment would be, when was the last on-site reserve study? I noticed the last one last year was it was not on-site. Oh, it was about a month ago.
Yes.
So you do have a current reserve study?
Yes.
Okay.
So they go off. It's a non-visit, visit, non-visit.
Oh,
So
it's every other year?
Yep.
Okay, great.
And maybe you've heard we have purchased this new software called Smart Properties, and so we're working with a whole new format and an electronic version of the reserve study, but he was here on site for several days, meeting with staff and reviewing the community, so that just happened. Thank you.
Okay, great. And thank you for your service.
Ken Johnson, Birdie Drive. I'm in total agreement that we need to be paying our bills. It's getting ridiculous of watching, and feel sorry for Gary to present. We don't have enough money to cover our bills, and here's where we're at. A $5 and $10 increase is ridiculous based on the inflation and what's been going on. So hopefully there can come to a better understanding between both sides. I personally do not feel I have high expectations. I have reasonable expectations of living in a very nice community, and I'd like to see it continued. When my golf ball is in that much of stuff that's not cut, when I go by and see the drought tolerant, not really drought tolerant vision that was presented, I think that we need to really look at things. You got to be careful about the type of people that you keep on cutting back, and you can't keep on bringing part-time and expecting management to do the South Clubhouse getting ready for an event. We need to do it right. We need to pay for it. And we need to be able to say it's realistic and hold everything accountable. Maybe we should start looking at a budget where if you hit your budget and you save some, you get paid a little bit more. If you don't hit your budget, you got to pay it back in. A performance-based budget. That's where I've been living for myself in my own setting of, dear, we're not going to go out this week. But guess what? We are going to go out to the restaurant this weekend. We're going to try one of the specials. And that's my other item that I'd like to bring in the budget. Please put in an air conditioning and sound acoustical plan for the Sandwich and the restaurant. Last night after the board meeting, I decided to do my own reconnaissance and walked in. I could see the progress. Angel said above where she was working, she could already see the difference in the acoustics. It looks like great progress. I walk into the restaurant. I am freezing. They had the door closed off. I walk into the next session, and we got the heating system on. I walk inside to the Sandwich. There was a crowd, and guess what? They were having a nice little party from golfers. We sat at the bar, and we couldn't hear each other. We couldn't hear the TV. It's horrible. When you took the carpet and the sound deadening out of the ceiling, shame on us. If you want to make that a driver, you got to help CCL and put it in your budget. I'd rather give you back some money to make it right so I can come here. It was horrible. But I did see a lot of bowls of soup and sandwiches and people having fun that were arriving at 5 o'clock, just like CCL said. Last item, being in a management perspective for many years and doing a lot of mergers and acquisitions and being in changing from one software platform to another, change is expensive. I hope that you can see that you need to work with your current vendors. You need to make sure you have good standards. To have a contract and go live on January 1st from your RFP, from my perspective, is ridiculous. You need to spend more time doing that. I'm glad to see that you're making progress with CCL, and I think everybody, both the community and everybody, should try to come together to make sure that we could take 2026 in a better direction instead of trying to offer change as a solution, but working together. That's my final point. Thank you.
Fran Hanratty, District 7. I have lived here a little over 15 years. I have a couple of questions. You will be bringing 5 more, or you have already brought 5 more employees to work for the artistic maintenance. Did I hear correctly?
No. The 5 people, the 5 staff members would start sometime after January 1st. If this is approved, they would be employees of First Service, and the contract with Artistic for that area would be terminated.
Okay. When I came here that many years back, I believe that Sun Lakes was maintaining the Sun Lakes Boulevard. And it was very nicely maintained for many years. However, the north side of the street of Sun Lakes has been deteriorated over the years. And I brought this before. Trees have not been trimmed, and I don't know if the Lakes is working along to maintain that area, but it looks very deteriorated. And also, all the trees that are being trimmed or removed, are you replacing them, or are they just being left bare?
So for the north side of your first question on Sun Lakes Boulevard, the association doesn't maintain that. So as you leave Gate 1 and you see that fence and those trees, that area is not maintained by by the association. That is actually the property owners or the lakes in their part. So unfortunately, we don't have jurisdiction in that area. As far as trees that are replanted, as they're cut down, they may be replanted in a different location on the golf course or in common area. They're usually replaced in common area. Golf course is a little different as the design previously, and I think we've talked about this in the past, in 1986 and 87, when they said, oh, it would be just very nice to put a sapling right next to the wall. Fast forward 30 years later, and that's a tree that's now breaking that wall. Well, there has to be some changes. And so what Mark has done is say, we'll replace that tree, but we're going to put it in a different area that is better for the golf experience. Talking to David, should I put this right in the middle of the fairway so people aim at it, or should I move it over? I'm just kidding, but there's some thought into it. So those on the golf course are usually replaced in another location. And
Okay,
common areas usually at that. Oh, I'm 3 minutes. I'm done.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Fred. Jason had one more.
Just gonna add to that. We have tried to set a date with the city manager to talk to them, and when we do, we can bring up the north side of the street and see if the city can start maintaining it again and taking care of that, or pushing the owners of that area to maintain it. I do know about a month or so ago, it was so bad that the RVs were having trouble driving down the street, and actually Monaco took a crew and trimmed up that side so that we, at his own doing, to take care of that for our RVers. But we will reach out to the city when we do schedule, and we will talk to them about trying to maintain that north area.
Yeah,
side.
because not too long ago, there was a tree that fell.
Fran.
Anyway, yes.
Do you have any financial questions for the Budget Committee?
Yes, we have senior citizens, residents in District 7 that have lived here over 30 years, and they have concerns that they have budgeted how long they can live here as far as the dues, the HOA fees that they have to pay. And they say, after this amount, they are going to have to be moved. They're going to be driven out of here because they will no longer be able to afford those dues. So in my personal opinion, I hope that you can keep the dues no more than $400. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you so much. Does anybody else like to make a comment? Yes, ma'am.
Dory Gartsky, I'm in District 12. I'm definitely behind what she's saying. There are several groups of people here. There's a group of individuals who, lucky for them, over their lifetime, they have had enough money come in. Maybe both of them, husband and wife, worked, and they had money come in. They can easily afford $10 increase every year. Then there's people like me. I don't have that kind of money. I only have my Social Security check, and then I have the profits from the sale of my very first home before I moved here. And those profits I'm trying to save for those last few years when I have to be moved to the lakes, to the assisted living. If I have to spend them for my monthly dues here, I'm not really sure where I'm going to go those last 3 years or 4 years, whatever happens. So keep in mind when you're doing there that you do have different income groups who find it either hard or easy to make a difference in the change every year. Every year that I've been here, my Social Security check has not matched the increase that you've given me. And that's just here. But every place else, the grocery store, the gas station, everybody is higher than my Social Security check. So just keep those two groups in mind and see if we can come a little closer to making that middle point. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Chris, I think we're finished.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody, for coming out today and listening to where we're at in the project. And we're going to continue to work at it and get it finalized next month. And thank you again.